All right, hello. My name is Tiffany. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. So today is a little different video. So I decided, like, hey, why not show you the resume that got me my first job as a developer? I don't know. Seems like a good idea. We're gonna run through it. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out the format, but I kind of want like a series of like first job things. So portfolio, projects. I don't know if I can get you the portfolio because I don't actually remember what my website looked like. If I find it, I'll definitely share it with you all. However, for today's video, let's look back at my resume that got me my first web developer job. I'm basically gonna be like, hey, here it all is. And we're just gonna fumble through it, see what happens. I don't really know. So join me in this adventure, okay? Let me get my resume up and get my screen ready to cast, and we will go from there. So here's a quick look at my resume. I have Tiffany Thompson, that's my name, at the top. It's fairly large, so you could see it. There shouldn't be any problems with you trying to figure out how to spell it. I make everything caps here, just so you could, like, things that I want people to notice, and I generally put like in caps, because to me, if it's bold, if it's in caps, then you're gonna automatically gravitate your eye towards it. Makes sense to me. Branding is super important in my opinion, especially if you have a lot of things online. Like if you have LinkedIn, GitHub, portfolio, Twitter, all your social media stuff, as well as the other things I've mentioned, they should be branded in a way that's like all this stuff is similar. So I've used the T Thompson 899. It came from my email. So if you see my email right here, I had to use TD Thompson because T Thompson wasn't available in Gmail. So I had to improvise a little bit with the email, but for the most part, everything is pretty much branded the same, in such fashion that you should pretty much be able to find me most places that are important to my profession. It should, LinkedIn, GitHub, portfolio, all those are what I consider professional, and those are the ones that I've pretty much branded the same. Stuff like Instagram, Twitter, those are two different ones and they're not the same. So yes. I should also mention, I did not, at this point in my career, if you remember, this is when I first got a job. During that time, I was doing YouTube a little bit. I was actually doing very well, I think, at that time, where I was posting once a week, hint, hint. However, I do not have it listed on here at all. Like, you don't even know that I do YouTube based on what you see links on here. So it's funny, because it's like, if you have one that's geared towards technology, maybe put it on here. But in my mind, I wasn't thinking about putting it on here. And then also, like, I was gonna say you could probably find it if you search any of these other places, but like portfolio, GitHub, or LinkedIn, but you cannot, like, it was literally nowhere on those websites. So it's pretty funny that I never included it, but either way. My phone number I have listed on here. I don't have my actual phone number because that's weird to put on the internet, weird. But yeah, you should definitely put your phone number here at the top. Any way to contact you, it should be easily accessible. Like, let people know where they could find you. It's very important. I also have a summary. Some people are just like, oh, the summary's not important, blah, blah, blah. Again, this was a few years ago. I think I actually still have something similar some section like this, very similar on my resume. I mean, it is what it is. Either you put it there or you don't put it there. It's your own personal choice. For me, I like to tailor it to what I'm currently doing, which at the time I was a web development instructor, so that's what I'm doing. This is what I'm using: Ruby, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And then enthusiastic about web developer things. And that's just kind of like, I'm very happy. I'm very excited about technology situation. And it wasn't like a fake thing. Like, no, I really was enthusiastic about, and still am enthusiastic about tech stuff. And web development things and new technologies and stuff like that. It's just, that's what I put on here because that's what I was, this is me at that time. So let's just say that. So you have to put what resonates with you. Yeah. Also, I have here a technical skills section. Again, this is kind of controversial to people. Some people are just like, you don't need to. Other people are just like, yeah, you need to. It is what it is. Again, this is a section, I say again, but I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I have bolded the letters. I've bolded it. I've put caps lock in things that I want people to gravitate their eyes to. Just like with my name, I want you to know my name. So I want that to be big and I want it to be centered so people can see it. Summary, I want you to be able to see, oh, this is a thing I should look at. Technical skills, oh, this is a thing I should look at. These are all the same sizes. Like this one is the same size as this one, and as we keep going forward, all of these kind of like section headers, like summary and technical skills, I consider like section headers. Those are all the same size. I've kept them all the same size. Everything else, like these words right here, those are all the same size as well. So I've went through the process of making sure that all of this stuff made sense. So as we continue going forward, I also list out languages. Now, as you can see, I bolded it, but it's lowercase. I mean, not lowercase. It's not all upcase this time because I didn't, you see it's a technical skills section. So when you start seeing languages listed, I'm assuming your eyes are going to navigate to that. I've also kept everything kind of like left aligned just because I'm just like, hey, I don't need anything fancy. I listed frameworks. I've listed databases. As you can see here, this was kind of like the breadth of what I wanted to do. I was interested in Ruby. I felt pretty good at Ruby. I felt pretty good at JavaScript. And as you notice, if you know anything about me now, I'm a PHP developer. And so there's nothing about PHP on here. And at the time I was like, nah, I'm into Ruby now. So I kind of gravitated a little bit towards that. And if it came up in conversation about PHP, of course I'm gonna tell you, yeah, I did it. But I tailored my resume to what I wanted to go more towards. And at this point in my career, I wanted to be more Ruby, JavaScript, developer, full stack. So that's kind of what I was going after with this resume. The next section for projects, before I move totally forward, I will mention that if you're gonna list things here, languages, frameworks, databases, know about those things. Have projects where you can show about those things. Don't just write stuff just because it looks cool or whatever the case may be. And then going forward, here are projects. And for the projects, I also have links to those projects. These are actual links. I'm pretty sure both of these projects are still up and running. I've recently went to this one especially because there were some inappropriate things that people put on there. Thanks, folks. People do all sorts of things on the internet. Anyways, so I cleaned out that database. So it should, let's just say 2 days ago, there was no data there. So it might even be more inappropriate things. Anyways, this is just a summary of what technologies I've used, what I was creating. So I list out the technologies and I'm like, hey, I created an e-commerce application. And then I tell them what the task was. This is what we were supposed to do. And then I kind of tell them how I did it, right? So I created databases, I coded each page separately, and then kind of going through a brief idea of how I did that. And then I give them the end result where a user can add themselves as a customer, create a new product, create a new order, view the most recent customers' products and orders. And that's kind of like a rundown of what this project can do, why I created it. Honestly, you can't really, just looking at it individually, we were tasked with creating an e-commerce platform. It's kind of like, was this a part of a class project? Probably so. But I didn't say that anywhere. Should I have? Probably. But this is a project that we did at the boot camp, Coding Dojo. And it was just one of the projects that we did, like, as one of our things. So this isn't anything special. What I ended up doing is I did jazz it up a little bit. I made it my own. So I did what was asked as well. But, you know, I was just like, okay, but it's mine because this is how I coded it. So everyone coded pretty much differently. This wasn't a project where we were working together and an instructor was at a whiteboard showing us what to do. This was like, here's what we need you to do. So it's essentially a project. And then I also say, here's where you can view the project. And this is GitHub. This is the code for it. What I should have said was the code for the project. Because you could view the project here at this link, but this is the actual code for it. Another thing I probably should have done that I didn't is basically listing the links for this. So I have it to where you can click on it, but what happens if you can't click on the link? Like if somebody got my resume and they weren't able to click on this link for whatever reason, it's like, or they didn't know that they could. They might think I just decided to make this blue and underlined. They may not know it's a link. But definitely list your links for your projects. If they live on GitHub, put them on, you know, say, hey, viewed the code on GitHub, look at it online. Definitely put those links on there so people can have them. Another part of this is another project. So I decided to have 2 projects. This project, and I tell them what technologies I used. I tell them the time period that I completed this, and you know, this is how I did it. I used my skills to break each part of this project into smaller sections. Because at first it was like, how do I start this? But then it was like, okay, let's break it apart and figure out how to make this work. And I'm using a lot of like I pronouns here. I don't know if this is the right way to do it. I don't know. In the end, I was able to create what I like to think is a cool game. And also challenge myself to hand code without the use of a framework to complete each task to form the finished product. So I don't know if this was totally necessary to kind of throw my opinion in here. It's like, what I like to think is a pretty amazing thing. It's like, I don't know if that's necessary, Tiffany, but I did it anyway. This fun fact about this project is I was doing a coding test for a job, and this is one of the things that they wanted me to complete. They wanted me to code a project using JavaScript and jQuery, HTML and CSS, a rock, paper, scissors deal, and they didn't give me a lot of direction. They had a few things that they wanted on there, but for the most part, it was just like, make sure it has a timer and a scoreboard. Pretty much. And so once I did that, I kind of made it to be what I wanted it to look like. We're gonna go over projects at a different time, so you'll probably see it, but it was just pretty cool to just have that there. Anyways, work history, what everybody's looking for, right? So at this point in my life, as you could see, I'm probably not gonna go over all these things, but at this point in my life, I didn't have any web development experience. So I listed all of my past positions. Basically listed what I did there, a few bullet points. I'm partial to bullet points. To me, it's like, oh, bullet point number 3, easy, right? So I kind of listed the bigger things that I did at most of these positions. I listed what the company or what, the organization I was working for, where it was located, so they can kind of see the areas I've worked in. And then the times. So this was back in April 2017. It says present, but obviously that was for 2017. But anyways, instructor, and then I kind of list what I did as a instructor at the CodeStream, like what did that entail, and business system analyst at this imaging center job. This job was the first one I got out of a coding boot camp, and I started October 2016. So just a little fun fact for you. If you know anything about my coding bootcamp journey, you'll know that I graduated in July 2016 and I got my first job in October 2016. Bit of a gap there of like employment. It's crazy. During that time, I was trying to find a job. So I was finally able to find a position. Before that, I listed my experience as a data integrity analyst. This is what I did before I left the coding bootcamp. And to be quite honest, the main reason I kept it is because I had enough space for it on my resume, and also because I was there for 3 years. So I was like, I don't want people to think that I just kind of quit jobs all the time, because I hadn't worked at these 2 places very long. So I was like, let's list this. But I don't go before this time period just because it's like, it's irrelevant at this point. And at this, like, you see that I've worked at different corporations and businesses and even startups, and so kind of like my education, or my background at that point, just with looking at this. The last piece, there's a couple other things, but one of the pieces is education, professional development. And look, let's be honest, people really don't care if you have a degree or not in this field, but for me, I was very proud of my education, and I went ahead and listed it on here just so people know, yes, I have went to college. It's not important in the web development world. However, I want people to know, for me, it was something that you start and you complete it, and I did complete it. So I wanted to show that there. So I just named the university and the degree that I got and when I graduated. So that's it. For you, if you're watching this, definitely don't bother putting the year to and from in your education. It's not important unless you're actively doing it. You can say you started this month and year, and then it's present, kind of like how I did with my position up here. It's just like this month and year to present, and then that's way it's, people know that you're actively doing it. And then I just listed the bachelor's degree, and then also Coding Dojo. I listed my coding bootcamp experience. As you can see, it's way down on the list. It's not as important as projects are, as technologies and skills that you have are. So I lowered it down on the list. And so, yeah, where did I go to get this education? What month and year? This is when I graduated. And then I basically said, this is the software development or, web developer coding bootcamp. Should I have capitalized the C and the B? Definitely yes. And then finally at the end, I have activities. At the time, I was really only involved in like a Bold Idea, which is a program here in the Dallas area where you teach kids how to code. And so that was kind of like my only experience outside of all my working experience that I had. But honestly, all that stuff shaped me to be who I am before you today. So it was important to me. So yeah, just listed when I was active in there, what I did, and kind of like their age range so people can get an idea. And then what they did, you know, they learned how to code. Activities are important. I might call these, I think I call them something different now. Not necessarily activities, but maybe like volunteer work or, you know, something like that. And at this point in my life, it looks a little different, right? This section, this whole resume looks a little different now. But the point is that if you're involved in like various meetups and you are actively going to those meetups, you're actively involved in those meetups, then sure, put it on here. Especially if you consider yourself someone like I said, actively involved in it. If you are a member of those organizations and you're actively going to those organizations, then yes, list them. Because you never know, somebody might see it and be like, oh, well, maybe I can catch up with you at one of these meetups. Who knows? I don't know. Your resume is kind of one of those things where it's like, you don't really know who's going to see it, what they're going to say. So don't list your entire life here, but also make sure to include the things that you feel are important. All right, people, there you have it. That's it. That is the resume that got me my first web developer job. Hope you enjoyed this video, you guys. Again, I want to reiterate, if I haven't already, this was the resume that helped me get my first job. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for you. It is exactly what it is. And it's my story. So if you want to take some elements from it, sure. I don't recommend that you copy it completely. I do recommend that you take some things that you think are interesting, but definitely don't replicate it and then get mad at me because it didn't work for you. I can't do anything for that. List the experiences that pertain to you and your story, and people are going to gravitate towards that. People are going to like that. That's who you are. So shape your resume to be who you are and what you want to become, and not somebody else's pipe dream. It's not a thing. But I definitely thank you all for watching. Thank you so much to all of those subscribed, and those of you who are thinking about subscribing, go ahead and subscribe, do it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I'd love to hear from you all, and I will see you in another video. Peace out.